Kaula Muda Indonesia, salam sehat selalu. Ada yang baru loh di dunia pendidikan tinggi kita, yaitu Indonesia Cyber Education atau disingkat ICE Institute. ICE Institute merupakan marketplace mata kuliah daring bersertifikat yang bermutu dan terregistrasi secara nasional. ICE Institute juga dilengkapi dengan teknologi blockchain yang mencatat semua penempuhan dan perolehan mata kuliah daring oleh kita yang dapat dihubungkan dengan job market. ICE Institute hadir dengan tagline Merdeka Belajar untuk Semua. Mata kuliah daring yang ditawarkan melalui ICE Institute akan memperluas akses kita semua terhadap pendidikan tinggi daring yang berkualitas. Siapa saja, di mana saja, kapan saja dapat mengambil mata kuliah daring melalui ICE Institute. Selain itu, ICE Institute juga mendukung program Kampus Merdeka, Merdeka Belajar dari Menteri Pendidikan, Kebudayaan, Riset, dan Teknologi. Mata kuliah daring yang ditawarkan melalui ICE Institute sifatnya satuan mata kuliah, yaitu kalau kita sudah menyelesaikan dan lulus satu mata kuliah, maka kita berhak mendapatkan sertifikat elektronik yang terverifikasi untuk mata kuliah tersebut. Untuk menyajikan mata kuliah yang berkualitas dan sesuai dengan kebutuhan terkini, ICE Institute berkolaborasi dengan berbagai perguruan tinggi negeri dan swasta ternama di Indonesia, yaitu UI, UPH, UT, UGM, Binus University, UNJ, UAJ, IPB, Pradita University, ITS, UNS, AFEBI, Undip, dan Telkom University. ICE Institute juga berkolaborasi dengan institusi penyedia mata kuliah daring dari luar negeri seperti EDX. Untuk memperluas jaringan, ICE Institute juga berkolaborasi dengan Rilo US Embassy Jakarta yang menyediakan akses ke berbagai kursus terbuka bahasa Inggris yang dikelola oleh instruktur dari berbagai kampus bereputasi di Amerika Serikat. Pengembangan ICE Institute dimotori oleh Universitas Terbuka dan memperoleh dukungan dari berbagai pihak, yaitu Asian Development Bank atau ADB, Microsoft, dan Kaliber. Kedepannya, ICE Institute akan terus memperluas jejaring kerjasama dengan banyak pihak untuk meningkatkan jumlah konten pembelajaran yang berkualitas serta menyediakan layanan pembelajaran daring yang dinamis. ICE Institute juga berupaya memperbaiki sistem yang sudah dimilikinya. Oleh sebab itu, bersama perguruan tinggi mitra, ICE Institute melakukan penelitian dan pengembangan secara intensif. Topik-topiknya menarik dan menginspirasi peningkatan kualitas pembelajaran daring di Indonesia. Penelitian tersebut dibahas melalui webinar series Cyber Education Forum. Setiap bulannya diselenggarakan satu webinar dan ditayangkan secara live melalui Zoom dan UTTV YouTube channel. Jadi ayo kaula muda kita berpartisipasi. Agar mata kuliah daring yang ditayangkan melalui ICE terjamin kualitasnya, dosen-dosen penyedia mata kuliah daring juga dilatih sehingga terampil dan siap untuk menyajikan materi perkuliahan secara daring. Kaula Muda Indonesia, yang paling menarik adalah beasiswa Mendikbudristek Merdeka Belajar untuk Semua. Semua mahasiswa di perguruan tinggi di Indonesia bisa shopping berbagai mata kuliah melalui ICE Institute dari perguruan tinggi ternama di Indonesia dan juga luar negeri. Ada 158 mata kuliah daring dari 12 perguruan tinggi papan atas di Indonesia dan 1.381 mata kuliah dari EDX yang berasal dari perguruan tinggi terkemuka internasional. Semua dibagikan secara gratis. ICE Institute akan terus berusaha untuk selalu melayani Indonesia secara prima melalui pengalaman belajar yang menarik dan menyenangkan. Belajar daring berkualitas melalui ICE Institute, tanpa batas, tanpa sekat, merdeka belajar untuk semua, Indonesia maju, salam sehat selalu.
importance of education. For the younger generation, as they have the same rights to continue their education to a higher level. Growing in knowledge, enhancing good character, and to have a brighter future. Universitas Terbuka is established to make the dreams of young men and women from all corners of the country come true through the distance higher education system to meet the ever-changing demands of industrial and technological development in the 21st century.
Dengan diresmikannya Universitas Terbuka.
Universitas Terbuka is a pioneer of world-quality distance higher education, which is supported by professional lecturers who are experienced in their own field of expertise. Universitas Terbuka has also made numerous innovations to solve current educational challenges by applying a digital learning ecosystem to build capable and quality future leaders.
Hampir 4 dasawarsa UT mengabdi untuk bangsa. Universitas Terbuka mewujudkan pendidikan tinggi untuk semua.
With the long experience of carrying out our mission of providing equal access to higher education for everyone in Indonesia, Universitas Terbuka has proven to be a trusted public higher education institution. Our graduates have successfully applied their knowledge into their chosen career fields as either professionals or entrepreneurs. As of 2022, UT has a student body of just over 350,000. As a cyber university who teaches and applies the latest technology, Universitas Terbuka has 4 faculties, including the Faculty of Economics, the Faculty of Law, Social and Political Sciences, the Faculty of Science and Technology, and the Faculty of Education and Teacher Training. As a successful distance higher education institution, UT has received various awards and achievements. For instance, the rector of Universitas Terbuka, Professor Ojat Darajat, was elected by acclamation as the president of Asian Association of Open Universities for the period of 2020 to 2022. Time and time again, UT continues to make important innovations by using the most advanced communication technology and information available in each of its programs. Through the implementation of lifelong learning, UT also provides certificate programs and tuition-free programs such as open educational resources, as well as free lectures to be accessed by everyone. Limitation is not a hindrance for people to continue their education to a higher level, because education is a fundamental human right for everyone that can be accessed easily. This is Universitas Terbuka, always thinking forward, always open to diversity.
Pendidikan tinggi bagi semua anak negeri.
Universitas Terbuka menjangkau yang tidak terjangkau.
Kemajuan ilmu pengetahuan serta pandemi merubah kebiasaan kita dalam menggunakan teknologi dan internet. Hal ini mendorong berdirinya Indonesia Cyber Education Institute yang diresmikan Direktorat Jenderal Pendidikan Tinggi pada tanggal 28 Juli tahun 2021. ICE Institute merupakan lokapasa digital untuk mata kuliah daring berkualitas di Indonesia yang tujuan utamanya adalah memfasilitasi penyediaan pendidikan berkualitas sekaligus menjamin kualitas layanan pembelajaran daring serta mendorong pemerataan kualitas pendidikan di Indonesia. Didukung oleh 14 mitra konsorsium, mata kuliah daring yang disediakan oleh ICE Institute dapat memperluas akses pendidikan berkualitas untuk siapa saja, kapan saja, dan di mana saja dengan beasiswa Merdeka Belajar untuk semua dari Menteri Pendidikan, Kebudayaan, Riset, dan Teknologi. mahasiswa dari berbagai perguruan tinggi bisa memilih mata kuliah dari perguruan tinggi ternama di Indonesia juga luar negeri melalui ice.ac.id. Sebagai contoh, mahasiswa yang terdaftar di Universitas Bina Nusantara dapat mengambil perkuliahan di Universitas Indonesia yang penempuhan mata kuliah serta SKS dan sertifikatnya bisa diakui oleh kampus asal. Sampai saat ini di ice.ac.id ada ratusan mata kuliah daring dan perguruan tinggi papan atas di Indonesia dan ribuan lainnya dari EDX yang berasal dari perguruan tinggi terkemuka internasional. Dengan mengadopsi teknologi blockchain, ICE Institute menghubungkan semua penempuhan mata kuliah dan menghubungkannya dengan job market, sehingga menjadi satu loka pasar pendidikan daring yang terintegrasi. ICE Institute akan selalu berusaha mendorong perubahan dalam peningkatan dan pemerataan kualitas pendidikan Indonesia guna mendukung program Merdeka Belajar untuk semua.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The Honorable Head of ICE Institute, Professor Paulina Panen MLS, the Honorable keynote speakers, Professor Liz Johnson, and Dr. Nurari Fadrajati, and all the participants of this seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Siti Hadianti, the moderator of today's seminar. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to the 18th Cyber Education Forum. The theme of today's seminar is online course development based on the TPACK-IDLE Model for professional teachers programs. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 2 days, we will celebrate Indonesia Teachers' Day. This is a moment when Indonesian citizen is reminded again to remember the role of teachers and in education. It is an honor for ICE Institute to be part of it, to give small contribution for the improvement of teachers' professionalism by organizing this event. But we expect this event can help teachers to improve their professionalism. Before we continue with the next agenda, let's witness together 1-year video of ICE Institute.
Merdeka Belajar, Kampus Merdeka, a policy initiated by the Minister of Education, Culture, Research and Technology back in 2020, has paved the way for college students to have the opportunity to take 20 credits outside their major. It aims to encourage college students to master various subjects that matter once they enter the professional world. It will also help them to equip their passion and creativity with a strong academic basis. To facilitate the provision of Indonesia's quality of education while ensuring improvements in online learning services, ICE Institute is here to become the best online learning marketplace, offering a wide variety of subjects and courses from leading universities in Indonesia and more from international academic institutions. Together with the consortium members and a growing partner list, ICE Institute now houses more than 300 subjects and counting, including subjects and courses on the LMX Open EDX platform from leading international universities. This allows ICE Institute website to record an immense number of registered students across Indonesia in the past year. ICE Institute has ambitious goals to help fulfill the needs of lifelong learners through the provision of quality learning systems and content that can be accessed by anyone, anytime, and anywhere. ICE Institute also collaborates with domestic and foreign partners to hold Cyber Education Forum to discuss various topics based on research and studies around hot skills in the job market and how students can prepare to enter the competition ahead of them. One of the programs that ICE continues to develop is Micro-Credential Game Developer Program with 5 streams of specialization: Game Artist, Game Programmer, Game Designer, Educational Game Developer, Game Project Manager. After graduating, students enrolled in Micro-Credential Game Developer Program will take part in capstone project for game making. The 10 best games will be selected by experts from the gaming industry during the judging process. Not only quality programs, AR or VR has also been used in various lecture processes to provide a modern and futuristic learning experience. ICE Institute will continue to carry out various research and development of the facilities, services, and features provided, thus becoming an answer to embrace the borderless and unlimited era of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, which has changed the perspective on how formal education is being held.
All right, before we continue for the next agenda, we would like to invite Professor Paulina Panen. Hello, Prof.
Hello, Mbak Siti. Thank you.
Professor Paulina Panen is the head of ICE Institute, and she will deliver the opening remarks. The time is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Siti. Very good morning to all of us, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very fortunate to have Professor Liz Johnson here and Ibu Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati from Universitas Negeri 11 Maret, and Prof. Liz Johnson is from Deakin University. For our precious and special seminar today, because this is the time that we celebrate actually the Teachers' Day in Indonesia, which mark the professionalism of teachers in Indonesia. By 2008, teacher is is determined to be a profession in Indonesia. What does it mean to be professional or being a teacher as a profession? That means teachers cannot stop learning. That's one thing, because as a profession, you have to catch up with all the development in your ecosystem in Indonesia as well as international. And then you have to make yourself available for any capacity building that is available to you in whatever form, via formal, non-formal learning, via also academic channel like university, or even non-academic channel like training, etc. So that is the mark of teachers as a profession, actually. So that's why we are happy right now. ICE Institute is providing you with this webinar, which is part of the capacity building for teachers, so that teachers can be upgraded all the time, can catch up with the new development in the field. And I believe Professor Liz Johnson from Deakin University and also Ibu Nur Arifah Drajati will provide you with a lot of information which is new, which is applicable to us, and very innovative in a way that we can apply also for our own capacity building and also to deal with our students in school. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for your participation. This webinar will be the ICE Institute last webinar in 2022. So we will be seeing each other again in January 2023. After this, we have a 1 month break for all of us, either the committee and the staff of ICE Institute and also the teachers and other audience to have a December break. Why? Because usually as academician, as lecturer and teachers, we usually deal with exam time during December and grading and, a lot of work in academic world. Yes. So that's why we have a break for a while, and then we will come back in January 2023 with a lot more interesting webinar to come. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, my highest appreciation to all of you for participating in this webinar, and to especially to Professor Liz Johnson for making available time to us for sharing and exchange knowledge here in this webinar in a very short notice. Thank you once again, Professor Liz. And to Ibu Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati, one of our outstanding researcher in ICE Institute, coming from UNS. Thank you for your research and effort throughout the whole year, and I hope this presentation will be useful for every one of us. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Have a very happy webinar. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for your insightful remarks, Prof. Pauline. Cannot wait for the long break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin the primary session, we would like to invite all of you, all the audience, to have a photo session together. So please turn on your camera so you can be on the screen. For the organizer, you may please prepare the configuration. Okay, I will count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the next page. Where's the bright smile? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Another page. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Already. Thank you very much. All right, before we begin and listen to the presentation of the speaker, Professor Liz Johnson, the first speaker, we would like to inform you that first, there is no attendance form in this webinar. The webinar will last for 120 minutes, divided into 2 segments, keynote speaker's presentation and question and answer sessions. Participants can ask questions to the speakers through the Zoom meeting chat or Q&A feature. The moderator will present the selected questions to the speakers for the response. Next, e-certificate of participant only will be given to the participants who have registered, participated in webinars, and filled out the online feedback forms. So make sure you do all of that to get the e-certificate, okay? The link will be given by the committee after the webinar session is completed. The feedback form is received no later than 90 minutes. So make sure you fill the online feedback forms, okay, before 90 minutes because it will be closed after the webinar ends. The certificate will be sent within 3 times 24 hours to the email you registered during registration. So in filling out the feedback forms, please write your email address correctly. All right, now we are moving forward to the main session. Before we proceed, I would like to inform how the presentation will be going on. First, the speakers will be invited to present the material about 20 minutes. After that, there will be a question and answer session. It's now my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Professor Liz Johnson. Hello, Prof.
Hello, how lovely to be with you.
Thank you, nice to meet you. Okay, so Professor Liz, before you start your presentation, I would like to read, it's only a little bit of Professor Liz. Professor Liz or Professor Elizabeth Johnson is Deputy Vice Chancellor Education, where she leads Deacon's ambitious student learning and experience strategy. Liz has led whole of institution curriculum reform projects at Deakin University and La Trobe University and nationally funded projects. Most recently, successful Wheel in Science, onward integrated learning in science faculties funded by the Office of the Chief Scientist of Australia and the Department of Education and Training. Liz also previously held senior university leadership positions at La Trobe University as Dean of Faculty Science, Technology, and Engineering and Deakin University, Prof. Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning, and was the inaugural director of the Teaching and Learning Center of the Australian Council of Deans of Science. All right. If I continue, it will be like 1 hour, I think. So, I think you may start your presentation, Professor Liz. You have 20 minutes to present the material, and the time is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercedes. It's very kind of Paulina to invite me, and I hope that you can now see my screen. Is that coming up for you?
Yes, it's very clear, Miss.
Okay, good. So I'm going to walk through a few slides here to tell you a bit about how we approach online learning and teaching at Deakin University. And I'll give you a little bit of information about Deakin as we go. And I hope this will stimulate lots of good conversation to follow. So I've entitled this Learning and Teaching for a Digital World because I think that's the central message that I can see in ICE and in the work of the institutes associated with ICE, that we're preparing our graduates for a digital world. But let me start by introducing you to Deakin University. So Deakin University is located in Victoria, which is at the bottom southeast corner of Australia. We have a metropolitan campus in our city of Melbourne, which is a large regional capital for the state in which we are. And also we have regional campuses in the largest regional city, Geelong, and further out. We have about just under 60,000 students with us at the moment. Of that group, 70% are undergraduates, 25% postgraduates, about 3% are studying higher degrees by research such as PhD. The large majority of them at the moment are domestic students. During the COVID pandemic, Australia closed its borders, but we normally sit around 25% international students coming to study with us, and we're returning to that level over the next year or two. Importantly for this talk, Deakin University was established with twin missions as an on-campus university, and that's where about 67% of our students come to us and study on one of our physical campuses, and about 33% of us are online, and that was part of our founding mission as a distance education provider. So right from the beginning, Deakin University delivered to both on-campus and on what was then distance, but is now online students. And you can see the journey that we've been on the right-hand side of the slide. In the 1980s, we moved to premium distance education with the advent of online technologies and eventually the World Wide Web. In the 1990s, we were working with what we called flexible learning then, and in the 2000s, we converted that into Deakin Online. When we got there, we were talking about having online options for the majority of our courses. We persisted with that into the idea of an entirely online campus, which we called Cloud Deakin. And we're now in 2020 seeing online learning as pervasive across all our courses. And we chose that path because we believe the world is digital and that digital practice is authentic for work and life. As we've all experienced during the pandemic, our lives and our work became moderated through the World Wide Web internet platforms, whether it was for shopping or telehealth. The daily commute into the city was replaced by a local office at home. And my office shrank to this screen for on and off for about 2 years. What that did was break assumptions about the way we can conduct online study well. So what we were doing during that period was we were increasing the demand for online education. And I've just picked two bits of data here to put in front of you. The graph on the right comes from the international aggregator platform, Class Central, and it looks at the increase in learner participations in free open courses called MOOCs here, Massive Open Online Courses. And the trajectory is a steady growth. After predictions of collapse, that hasn't happened. Free open courses continue to grow and thrive, and it's platforms like ICE which are introducing them to the wider world. What we've seen at Deakin is that our online learners for our courses, our degree courses, tend to be domestic students, that is, they're Australian students. They tend to be part-time. They tend to be students that are returning to study after life and work, and they are more likely to study postgraduate than undergraduate. This is partly due to the idea that online gave increased access and participation in study and allowed more learners to access higher education. So our learners are different, but the principles by which we construct online courses are the same whether we're constructing them for physical campuses, face-to-face classes, or whether we're constructing them online. And I've picked out a few principles here which speak to the models that are the focus of this symposium. We know that all learning is most effective when it is active. That is, learners are actively engaged in activities to develop their knowledge and their skills. We know it's more effective when it's constructively aligned. That is, that the intent, the learning outcomes that are intended are supported by activities which directly speak to those learning activities, and that's reinforced by assessment which directly measures the skills that were intended by those learning outcomes. Learners learn better when they are engaged and they see the learning as relevant. And we know that intentional design and evidence-based practice is more effective. And that's been shown across all levels of learning, from preschool right through to adult learning. What we're seeking for that learning to deliver is desired competencies and skills that are evidenced by assessment. And we also want to build through that the learner's capacity to judge the work of self and others. And we call that evaluative judgment. And this is a key consideration for independent lifelong learning, where we expect that learners will be able to judge their own progress and to see where they need to extend their skills. So good learning principles always apply. The mode of interaction may change, where we replace online where we replace a physical discussion in a room with an online chat, or attending a library, still one of my favourite things to do, with an online repository, which is actually where most of our information is stored contemporaneously. And learner-to-learner interactions may happen through chat and through discussion boards rather than being in the same room. That gives us a spectrum of learning designs which we can develop, which span from things that are done completely on campus all the way through to independent self-paced learning. And you will see these designs appearing in the educational design literature. Ideas like flipped classroom, where the on-campus phase is about discussion and exploration, and the instructional part of that, the acquiring knowledge, happens with the student independently. A mix of synchronous and asynchronous classes where students progress their learning through over time through discussion boards. HighFlex, which offers both modes in parallel, and online guided instructions where students work through templates which are specifically designed for online work. So what do you do with all that, this huge plethora of things to choose from? Our approach at Deakin is to combine modes to get the best outcomes. So thinking carefully about what we're seeking to achieve, what are the learning outcomes, what do we know about how students learn, and selecting the best tool for that particular learning need. We have seen that online is particularly good at foundational learning, repetition to mastery, where students can go over and over material until they are comfortable with it. It's terrific for exploration, having the world at your fingertips, and all the information of the World Wide Web provides a huge platform for investigation. And it's good for certain thoughts, certain types of thinking, where you've got structured processes. And I've got a little logo there from the Microsoft Office Suite Teams, which we use, for example, for project management and group project delivery. But it's also particularly good for visualization. The kind of things that I'm showing you now are constructed in a digital environment. And in the videos that we saw before, this will extend into extended reality types of resources. Whereas face-to-face has different affordances. It might be that you are experiencing a particular environment, and I've got some students there on a beach who are experiencing an ecological space. It might be that you bring students in for specialised learning with specialised equipment which they can't access at home. And there are other forms of collaboration which work best in a face-to-face manner. And it's the way we put these two things together which will then create the most effective learning. At Deakin, we've done that by considering our design teams across 4 areas, and I've represented them as a quadrant here. So if we start on the top right, the learning design there builds on all those principles that I showed you before, and we match that up with multidisciplinary teams where we've got specialists that are coming in learning, online learning object construction. We might have specialists who are working on feedback, or specialists who are particularly good at designing for group learning. And the idea is then to put them with the discipline experts so that you've got the faculty members working with instructional designers and experts as needed. All of that then is matched to the support environment that we provide to students. So students can draw on academic skills support, library support, social opportunities to mix and match with cohorts where they develop other relationships. And all of that then leads into the portfolio of courses that is offered by the university. We have recently used our experiences during the pandemic to rethink the principles by which we design our courses. And I won't go through all these. They are built from both the literature and a long conversation, a year-long conversation with our teachers and designers at Deakin University to work out what principles we want to bring to bear on all our learning and course design. At the moment, we're working through this process of translating that into policy and now into practice through the guides, templates and resources, and some targeted champions working on specific projects. An example of this is the move that we've made from in exam hall examinations to online examinations. Now we work in trimesters, which is why it says T1 2019. We had 316 of our units subjects with end of unit exams in an exam hall. Not quite like that's rather old-fashioned photo there, but essentially the same environment. And we did that both in Australia and internationally for our international students. During the pandemic, we worked out how to do this online. So by the same period, 2 years later in 2022, almost none of our exams were on campus, 1%. In fact, it was 4 during that period. And they were digital exams anyway, done digitally in a classroom on campus. All the rest of it became online, either online open book or online with invigilation where that was needed. So what we saw during that period was that student confidence with online learning grew steadily. And it's interesting here to compare our students who were who intended to study with us online and those who came on campus. So in the top left, you can see the increase in student confidence with their capacity to do assessment. And the bottom right there, you can see the pink line reports the confidence of our on-campus students, which steadily rose from quite a low level, 43% back in 2020. They didn't think that they could study online, compared to their colleagues who had enrolled in online courses with us, who were far more confident. So we can see both experience of online and expectations of online really change the way students engage. And by encouraging students to engage with online learning and assessment, we've really built their confidence. So I'll finish with just some thoughts to take away. From our experience, we've found that building on effective online learning really comes from understanding the why. Why are we doing it? Which is because digital practice is authentic for life and work, and that it increases access and participation, and that we know we can apply good learning principles in whatever mode we choose. The how, online learning is a spectrum of activities, and we need to combine learning modes to get the best outcome. And then deeper again, working on this and putting it into practice, we need to align learning design with student support and staff capability to develop and share agreed principles and what that looks like in practice, and that we know we can build confidence not just for the students but also for the staff, and we can match that to expectations. And I do have provided some references there, so you can go back and have a look at where all this information comes from. And I'll call a halt there because I think I've used up my 20 minutes, and I will stop sharing so we can move to questions. So back to you, Masiti.
Thank you very much for your insightful and informative presentation, Professor Liz. So to build effective online learning, we have to know the why and the how, right? Okay. All right, Professor Liz, you may please wait for a while because we would like to invite the next speaker first before the question and answer session.
Lovely.
All right. For the participants, if you have something in mind, please, you may type your question in the chat room box. Then later, the organizer will pick 3 questions for every session. Ladies and gentlemen, now allow me to welcome the second speaker, Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati. Are you here with us now, Dr. Arifah? Really sorry, I think it's still mute. Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Ibu Siti. Thank you very much for having these sessions. Okay, good morning, Bapak Ibu, and also Professor Pauline, Professor Liz Johnson. Thank you very much for your insight. I really learning about your materials.
Thank you. Ibu Nur Arifah, before we start your presentation, please allow me to introduce you to the audience.
Yes.
All right. All the participants, if it is your first time seeing her, okay, Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati earned a Bachelor in English Education in Universitas 11 Maret, or UNS. She completed her Magister in 2008 and her PhD in 2013 in Universitas Negeri Jakarta. She currently teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in Universitas 11 Maret. Her research interests include technology in language learning, literacy, and writing. She has published numerous articles. I've seen that because we are friends on Facebook, Ibu. Okay, so I really know you're very amazing. Okay, numerous articles and books related to TPACK or technological pedagogical content knowledge. So if all of you want to know more about this topic, please listen carefully to Dr. Nur Arifah Drajati. So you have 20 minutes to present the material, and now the time is yours, Ibu.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Siti Hadianti, for the time given. Good morning, Bapak Ibu, and also for all the participants. Let me share the PowerPoint. So this is today actually I just representative of the researcher here. So we promote TPACK-IDLE Model for creating effective online learning. We try. Actually, this is a trial and error, Professor Johnson's, and hopefully that this kind of model can be implemented and also accepted by people who learn in online learning. So this is the researchers. So we are in the consortium of IC Institute research team. There are 4 universities joined with this research program. First is Universitas Terbuka and Universitas 11 Maret. And then the third one is Universitas Negeri Jakarta. And the last one is Universitas BINUS, Bina Nusantara. Okay, so today the presentation, there are 3 outline. First is online learning, changing the landscape of educations. The second one, designing online learning with the TPACK+-IDLE framework. And third is design activity of the TPACK+-IDLE framework. So this is what happens actually, some challenges that we face after having the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe some of us have already feel that there was some challenging when we teach or learn online during COVID-19. In the first stage of the COVID-19, actually we would like to have some kind of shock time because we are ready to do the online learning. But after some times having this kind of pandemic, some of didn't want to back again to the face-to-face. So online learning is nowadays is a part of our lives. Though in some universities, back again with the face-to-face learning in the classrooms, but some of us didn't want to back again. So this is a new phenomena after having the pandemic. And this is what happens that we try to navigating between the possible and the impossible teaching and learning model. And our team have proposed for having TPACK+. TPACK+ here. The plus one is the IDLE. IDLE means informal digital learning of English. And but sometimes we call as the informal digital learning of environment. So there are 2 kinds of definitions of this. And actually, this is what happens nowadays. So there is this kind of increased learning poverty. And some of us, it is not only just learning, but also there's this kind of attitude poverty too. So this is what happened in our education. Then this is some possible that we can do for having this kind of transformation. First is having online learning. And then the second one is home-based learning. And the third one is trying to redefining the role of school. Sometimes that we can have some activities beyond of our classroom. So we try to provide this proposal. So this is TPACK+, TPACK+-IDLE concept. We call in the TPACK itself, we try to integrate between the technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge. Some of the teachers, actually some here is many, and it could be most of the teachers have such kind of difficulties in integrating this kind of technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge. Yeah, it is not easy. Based on my experience in teaching this kind of framework, it needs at least 6 months to from the planning and implementing this kind of framework to the teachers, the pre-service teachers here also. And talking about the IDLE, there are 3 kinds of IDLE. First is a call class. The second one is extracurricular, means that this is the task that given to the students outside of the classroom. And the third one is extramural. Yeah, extramural means this is based on the students' intention. Yeah, so this is what the students wants to learn. Yeah, and wants to have the ability. So as the teachers here, we would like to motivate and also facilitate our students to know about other resources outside of the classroom. They can make use of the resources, and in the end of the goal is the students is able to use the resources based on their needs. Yeah, so here teachers is trying to introducing this kind of habit, and hopefully the students have more independently in a learning process. So this is the TPACK framework. Maybe, of course, I think that most of us knows about this, though it is not easy to integrate the 3 part of this. Yeah. And by having this kind of framework, we have purpose to increase or develop the 4 C skill: communications, collaborations, critical thinking, and creativity. Yeah. In this morning, and also in many occasions when I speak to teachers, I always remind about this. Yeah, and then how we can create such kind of activities, learning activities to develop this kind of skills. Yeah. Some of the teachers, sometimes we forget about this kind of skills, the roles of this kind of skills for our students. Since this is a very crucial, so we as the teachers, we try to remind that this is the things that we should consider for having meaningful process of learning. Yeah, this is another concepts of IDLE, from Benson's conceptual framework, 2011, about the IDLE. Yeah, so there are such kind of in class, and also there's such kind of IDLE here, extracurricular and extramural. Yeah, so this is from the expert of concept. Yeah, so this is the 3 stages model. This is based on the research with Professor Ju Seong Lee and me to try to implement this kind of model into the classroom. First is in-class call. The second one is extracurricular call. And the third one is extramural call. Yeah. Here, in class call and also extracurricular, this is the teacher's roles. We try to motivate, we try to facilitate our students. And hopefully, By having this kind of activities in class call and extracurricular, the students have this extramural call. Yeah, so this is the continuum. We call as leave the nest model. So it's like the mom of the bird mom. Yeah. So as the teacher, we give such kind of food for our children, and when the time goes by, then the bird is grow, and they know how to find the foods. So the children can find the food by themselves. So we call this as the leave the nest model. Yeah, so this is the first stage. Extracurricular call is understood as self-directed, self-instructed, digital learning of English or environment in semi-structured out-of-class environment that are still linked to a formal language program. So this is extracurricular. Yeah, so at the same time, we learn about the content, but also we learn another content here is in English. Yeah, so outside of the classroom, the students also learn how to find some resources, and also they learn English at the same time. Yeah, so this is the second stage. Extracurricular call is this is the first. The first is called class. The second one is extracurricular, and the third stage is extramural. Sorry for the first slides. I will revise it. Ibu Eka, yeah. And for the pedagogy, for online learning, we use project-based learning. So as I have learned from Professor Pauline that nowadays the student, it is not only just learning, yeah, but also playing. And the third one is producing, yeah, producing something. So having such kind of a project-based learning, the students do the three things here, yeah. Though it is not playing, but they can enjoy. They can enjoy the learning process. Yeah. Though learning is hard, but the students can enjoy the process of learning itself. Yeah. So this is the advantage of using TPACK framework. First is learners are experienced in digital learning. The second one, existing knowledge is activated as the foundation for new knowledge. The third one, new knowledge is demonstrated to the learner. The fourth one, new knowledge is applied by the learner, and new knowledge is integrated into the learner's role. So this is the learner center. Yeah, as the teachers, maybe we just give scaffolding for not so many knowledge we given to the students, but the students trying to find by themselves about the knowledge facilitated by the teacher. And this is the advantage of IDLE. Yeah, of course, the knowledge is increased. And then the second one is having collaborative learning. The third one will impact to the positive attitude toward cross-cultural communication because it is not done, the task, it's not done by the student himself, but they can collaborate with other students from many cultures. The fourth is motivations and self-confidence is growing. And the last one is promoting digital literacies. So this is some examples of the activities that we try to promote in our model in class call. So the students use various materials such as videos, PowerPoint, and various technology related with the such kind of some application. And then students' exposure to use technology. Yeah, maybe from the basic one, we try to facilitate our students with web resources. For example, about some various of the reputable resources here. And then the students have discussions. So it will give more engagement toward the learner to learner, learner to the students, and learner to the content, as explained by Professor Liz Johnson. The fourth one is students learning focus on research and publications is not only just learning language, but also they learn how to focus on having research, and publications, because the topic of our online learning is talking about how to write proposal, how to write thesis, and then how to write publication. And the fifth, it provides scaffolding and grading activities. So this is some activities that we promote in our online learning using the TPACK-IDLE. And then go to the extracurricular call. We introduce how to have a mind map, our research purpose and other activities. And then the students do by themselves in group how to do the find some resources regarding to their research. And the other things is they back again to the classroom and then they explain what they're finding based on their IDLE activities. So the last one is going to the last stage, extramural IDLE. Watching YouTube videos regarding to the research. They can find, but in our online learning, we give some links, some links or videos that they can learn by themselves. And then the second one is listening to podcasts. And some of activities also playing video games regarding to having some new vocabularies regarding to the research. And the other one is having overseas or maybe friends from other regions to have discussions. As Professor Liz Johnson said, that more various model for having learning gives engagement for our students. So we back to the last one, the conclusions. We face the new environment and informal digital learning of English that comes sooner, and we should be aware with this new atmosphere. We, both the policymakers, educators, education practitioners, and parents, play important roles in facing the new paradigm of education. And the last one, the ultimate pedagogical goal for teacher is to accomplish the third stage and help students construct their own IDLE environment in which they can continuously learn and use various IDLE spaces independent of formal instruction. So thank you very much. And we go to the QA and discussion. Thank you, Ibu Siti.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arifa, for giving us such thoughtful and captivating presentation. It's really interesting, the one with the leave the nest model, Ibu, how you present the analogy with the bird. Okay. It's now for us to start the question and answer session. The organizer may please to display the question from the audience. All right, I have already had 3 questions here. Let's see. Please wait for a while. All right, the organizer will share the screen. Okay. The first one for Dr. Arifa. How do we design and apply the 4C skills in the learning activity together with the implementation of scientific approach at the same time? You may answer the question, Ibu Arifa.
Yeah, okay. I try, Ibu Siti. Thank you very much,
Sure.
Ibu Nora. Yeah. It is not easy to implement the forces, but by having such kind of very careful planning for the teaching materials and also for the teaching instructions, we could improve our learning by having this kind of CES. For example, like this, having critical thinking. Having critical thinking, we can use many problems around our environment. For example, earthquake that maybe happened a few days ago in some of the region in Indonesia. What we can do for helping the victims, for example. So this is such kind of if we use problem-based learning or project-based learning or such kind of digital storytelling or something regarding to this approach, we can try to implement the forces in the right way. Yeah. And what about the scientific approach? That's a depend. Yeah. Actually, for me, for example, actually, I'm a language teacher. I cannot use a scientific approach actually because because this is social and also this is regarding to the how we try to communicate with others. But maybe the scientific approach, it is for science. For science, yeah, we call as the scientific approach is for science. But actually, I think that I can. If it's we can do both of them. Yeah, if you are as the scientific approach, just put some planning about there are such kind of point here that the students have critical thinking. And also the second step is the students have creativity, how to solve this kind of problem. And the third one is having collaborations, make it in a group. Yeah, but we have to be careful in giving such kind of assessment if this is a group. And the last one, having communications. What the students are finding from that such kind of learning process. So I think it is not. Yeah, it needs some times and energy for thinking how to collaborate between forces and also scientific approach. But based on my experience, it is very possible. Yeah, that's possible. Ibu Nora. Yeah. Maybe we can communicate after this webinar. That's Bu Siti.
Okay, that is a question from Ibu Nora Dewi. Thank you for your question. And Dr. Arifa, thank you for answering the question very comprehensively. Okay, Now, let's move on to the next question. All right, Professor Liz Johnson, this is question from Pak Bahtiar. Okay, based on your teaching and research experiences, what's the biggest challenges in enhancing lifelong learning and instructional design strategies in an online learning environment, and the strategies to solve the challenges? You may answer the question, Professor Liz.
Thank you, Ibu Siti. It's a great question and a very big, complex question, but I will do my best to get us started. So when we're considering lifelong learning and instructional design strategies, we need to think about our learners and about our teachers and the environment in which they are. So to make lifelong learning work well, we need to understand our learners. At Deakin, we have learners that have come straight from school, and we have learners that are returning to study after being workers for a while or even being professionals for a while. And they bring different skills to the classroom and different experiences. So understanding who is in the classroom with you will modify the way you teach. If you've got people there who are confident, who have practiced their communication skills, as Dr. Arifa was referring to a minute ago, you expect different levels of expertise and different levels of achievement from them. The other side of the coin is how our teachers are prepared, and often under difficult circumstances, teachers will default, they'll go back to the way they learnt. So they need to build their confidence with new environments and new tools. And this is particularly true with online learning. So when the COVID pandemic hit in March 2020 for us, we tried very hard to use existing online tools that our teachers knew and understood, because then they could modify them and develop and innovate with them rather than trying to learn a whole new online learning platform. So it's quite important to make sure that you're taking your learners and your teachers with you on the journey. We do a lot of work building capability in our teaching staff and also getting our students to work with us to test new activities and new assessment, so that the students are telling us where they're going to have difficulties, where they're going to get stuck, and what things they can think of, a creativity moment, to bring in to help other students, their peers, to engage with the material. So big challenges there about bringing people with you and building capability. And the answer is it takes time. It takes time and good planning to work with both students and our teachers to come with us on the journey.
All right, thank you, Professor Lee. So it is really important to students and teachers to cooperate, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Pak Bahtiar, I hope Professor Liz already answered your question. Let's have another question for the session one. To Professor Liz from Ibu Rina Husnaini. How to sustain the student engagement in the learning process, whether in any kind of learning environment, online, offline, or hybrid?
Another excellent question. Thank you for the question. As the world globally tipped into online learning in 2020 and then carried that through the pandemic, this question was a particularly pressing question for most universities and certainly most schools. So the answer is that student engagement is a complex matter It comes from the prior experience of the students and things that they're used to and the context that they come out of. In my presentation to you, I showed you a little graph showing the confidence of students over time during the pandemic. And what we saw was those students who didn't have as much experience with online, their confidence was really low and they felt unable to engage. But we persisted with them. We scaffolded. Dr. Arafat talked a lot about scaffolding, very appropriate here. We scaffolded their learning, gave them confidence by getting them to engage with the online environment. And over time, they became more and more confident. The interesting thing here is to contrast those students with the students who had already chosen online learning. Those students had already thought through what they were going to do. So for them, they were much more confident and they were much more engaged. In fact, our online student engagement went up even further with the pandemic because they said the university and the other students are now much more focused on online learning. So engagement depends on understanding where the students are coming from, giving them confidence in the mode, whatever mode you choose. And the third and really important thing here is that they believe the learning is relevant to them. So we can show relevance by showing them how they're going to apply that learning in the future, or showing them how it's relevant to their future career or their current study. Where students can see their immediate benefit, why does it matter to me? That's a really important factor in engaging them and getting them to participate actively in learning.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Liz, for your answer. It's really insightful on how we sustain students' engagement on learning, whatever the mode is. Okay, I think we will have another session because there are so many questions on the chat box. Dr. Arifah and Professor Liz, okay. The committee may share the screen. This is for Dr. Arifah. Is it possible to introduce the model of the teacher model for the professional teacher, such as English Teacher Association Forum or MGMP of the English Language Teacher at SMA or SMK, SMP, etc., with the collaboration between Open University of Indonesia, it means UT, right, with the BPMP, BGP, and English Teacher Forum, or maybe this is PGRI. Okay, please, Dr. Arifah.
Of course, yeah, that's a very possible. Yeah, more. Yeah, that's moreover. I'm as the coordinator of the Teacher Professional Development in TAFLIN Association, so it is very possible to have this kind of learning together and having a discussions. Yeah, because yeah, me myself. As the researcher, we would like to promote this kind of model for not only for university level, but also in high schools and also for in elementary schools. Yeah, so it is open for all the teachers to learn about this. And I have maybe Bapak Ibu would like to learn from my book. So I also write books in Bahasa Indonesia. So it is hopefully that it is more applicable in the classroom. Yeah, that's Ibu Siti.
Okay, so the answer is very possible, Ibu.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The next question, please. To Professor Liz from Bapak Muhammad Toha, could you elaborate or illustrate on how evaluative judgment works or implemented? Yes, Professor.
Another excellent question. So evaluative judgment asks students to judge the work of self and of others. So the important thing here is to give students structured activities which ask them to do exactly that. So there's a lot of literature on peer-to-peer assessment, and I'm just going to give you a couple of quick examples of things that you can do quite quickly inside existing assessment designs. So one of the things that colleagues have used is to get students to assess themselves before they hand their assignment in. So alongside the work, they've also got to give you an assessment of what they feel they achieved. And you can give them criteria to write against that, but you're asking them to assess their own performance. Another strategy that I've used in my own teaching is to get students to co-create an assessment rubric with me. Now, to do that, of course, the students have to have some expertise so they can make some judgment. But the example that I'll use were some final year science students, and they were doing presentations about topics in human nutrition. What we eat and what value there is in what we eat. And I asked them to write the assessment rubric against which we would all measure each other. Now, of course, I helped them to do that. And if they were missing things, I was helping them to think about it. But that process of writing the rubric made them think about what elements should be assessed and what weighting those elements should have. So we were having a discussion about what does quality look like. Now, as students practice this and become more sophisticated with it, I have a colleague who got his students to the point where he said he wasn't doing very much marking at all. All he was doing was looking at what his students were telling him. And of course, that sets them up for lifelong learning where they're judging their own performance over time.
Okay, thank you, Professor Liz, for sharing your own experience on the strategy of the evaluative judgment. All right, let's have the next question. For Dr. Arifa from Ibu Fakhria. How do you evaluate your students related to the collaboration strategies or TPACK? How you construct the questions? What kinds of questions do you use?
Okay, thank you, Ibu Siti, and also thank you for the questions. That's very interesting to answer about this. Yeah, usually I use problem-based learning. Yeah, sometimes problem-based learning, and sometimes using digital storytelling when I teach my students. So, the problem they have actually based on their intention. Yeah, for example, like this. I ask the students to find the problems that happen in the classrooms. Yeah. Then, and the next meeting, they give report. So this is the problem. Yeah. For example, the students are lack of vocabularies, for example. Yeah. Then, each group have their own problems based on their observation. And I ask them to trying to exploring some solutions, how to fulfill this kind of problems. So each of the groups have a different problem and different solution. But this is the topic is still the problems in the classroom. Yeah. So each of the students cannot having such kind of a plagiarism or having such kind of imitation. Yeah. So each of the group they have problem and also solution. And the solution, it is not only just solution from themselves, but they have to try to explore the solutions from reading the journal. Yeah, so it is a very interesting because the students willy-nilly they have to read a lot of books and also some reputable references to support their solution. Yeah, but the decision is from the group. Then me myself as the teacher trying to, if you choose this, then this one, that this is the things that may happen. Is it possible to have this kind of solution? So as the teacher here, I'm trying to be a real facilitator. Yeah, that's the response, Ibu Siti. Hopefully that it is give a satisfaction.
It is, Dr. Arifah. You know, you're a very inspiring lecturer because you really engage with your students. Yeah, so I hope everyone can follow your journey on becoming a very good lecturer. All right, let's see the next question. You're welcome, Ibu. The Professor Liz, as Deakin University has applied blended learning approach, have you ever found any students having learning loss as what had experienced by students in Indonesia? How did you overcome, if there is any? From Ibu Maya Puspitasari.
Thank you, Ibu Siti. And another good question, of course. Deakin has had online learning for a long time. So we've had that running in parallel with our on-campus learning, and we see equivalent learning outcomes from our online learners as we do our on-campus learners. So we know the programs will deliver equivalent results, but for an individual student, that can be quite confronting when they have to move from one mode to another. And certainly Australia, not just Deakin, but Australia as a whole, was very concerned about loss of learning for those students who had to move from a on-campus course to a online course. It's also true that there are some courses which need on-campus components and are not suitable for entirely online delivery. So there was two things I want to say in answer to this. So first of all, we had a group of students who found engagement online difficult. They weren't independent enough to study online. And so the way we dealt with that was to put more resources into supporting them. So we had coaching programs where we work directly with students, touching in with them every week to make sure, are you still with us? Are you still accessing the library? Are you still looking at things? Where are your problems? So there was a lot of student support that was put around that. That's expensive and it's challenging. So it was an emergency response, really. The second area of learning loss is where you can't do things. So during the pandemic, where Australia was locked down, we had a number of learning activities which were just not able to happen. So things like, and I have a science background, things like working in a laboratory simply couldn't happen. So when lockdowns lifted, we got some of those students to come back with us and do extra sessions to catch up on those learning activities which they couldn't do under the pandemic restrictions. So it depends on what the learning loss is and what you're trying to remediate. But there's no doubt that wide-scale lockdown certainly prevented students from having experiences which we would expect them to be able to have before graduating. And it does take work to look after that. I think the other thing that we've learnt through the pandemic and that students learnt during the pandemic is that they started to look for other ways to compensate for things that they had taken for granted. So they were more willing to work with each other remotely through online environments. They used chat functions, online chat functions. They used online social supports. So students are quite, where you give them opportunity, quite good at helping you to find other ways to engage, to overcome what was quite a serious situation. And I don't for the moment minimise the challenge that was for students and for staff.
Thank you for your answer, Professor Liz. Maybe it's the same like our students in Indonesia. They are taking everything for granted now. Yes. Now we support each other, right? Yes. Okay. Let's go to the next question. For Dr. Arifa. This is from Ibu Sri Jatnika.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
How to solve students' learning loss strategies in terms of learning poverty and attitude poverty, as you state in your presentation?
Yes, yeah, it's a little bit difficult. Thank you for the questions, Bu Sri Jatnika. Yeah. Of course, we have to have such kind of more efforts and energy for having this kind of a problem. And this is another problem that we face, not only in Indonesia, but also all around the world. Yeah, so there's such kind of a learning poverty and also attitude. Yeah, attitude. Yeah, so this most in 3 years, the students are usually having such kind of online learning, and sometimes they forget how to have a good attitude for the teachers or for the another persons. Yeah, so yeah, that's another homework for all of us. Yeah, we can make it. Yeah, in content. Yeah, so we can put this kind of values in the content that we choose for them. Yeah, of course, the content should give another, giving them new insight and also new perspective how to behave, and also the second one maybe giving them a new knowledge. Yeah. Sometimes by giving them such kind of using problem-based learning, it could be another action that we can do for helping this kind of learning poverty is in a minimum effect. Yeah. So it gives another point of view from the students how to solve this problem, how to how you will do for if for example our society have this kind of problem. So hopefully it will give what we call it having such kind of more knowledge by having a problem, and also giving them a room for giving the solution. Yeah, so I think that this is another action that we can do, Ibu Jatnika. Yeah, so it is not only just giving them problem, but also giving a room for them for having solution. Maybe their solution at least giving new insight for all of us. Yeah, I think that's my response, Ibu Siti. Thank you, Bu Sri Jatnika.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Arifa. So we actually also encourage students, right, to give solution to our problem, because that is our problem together.
Oh yeah, Ibu Siti, maybe this is another case. I asked my students, that's the 5th semester, and based on their experience, when I give the problem, when I when I asked them to find a problem, actually they got confused. What kind of problem that I have to find? Yeah. So this is the first time that they have to find the problem in the classroom. Yeah. Usually they only just answer the questions. They only just solve the problem. But in my class, I ask them to find problems that happen in the classroom. So they have to observe, they have to interview the students, they have to interview the teachers. They got headache actually. They get confused. But that's challenging. They like it. They can learn. Oh, there are a lot of problems around us that they have to solve this problem. Yeah. So I think this is a great action that we can do by asking them to find the problem. Yeah, because actually there are many problems around us, but we try to ignore. We try to ignore the problems because we have a lot of problems. But if this is regarding to the topic, for example, in the classroom, or this is regarding to the materials that given by the teacher, there will be a lot of problems that we try to find. Yeah. Thank you, Ibu Siti.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arifah. That's very inspiring. Thank you very much. All right, I think that's the last question for all the speakers. We would like to thank all the speakers, Professor Liz Johnson and Dr. Nur Arifah Derajati for the informative and interesting presentation, and all the participants for the participation. Thank you very much. I remind you again for the certificate, please filling out the feedback form with the link that the organizer will give. Okay, and before we ended this event, we invite Insinyur Muhammad Toha, MAD PhD, as the ICE representative to award the certificate to the speakers. Pak Toha, are you ready?
Yes. Thank you, Bu Siti. Hi, Professor Liz. I think we already met in Jakarta with Pak Pauline at the time. It is nice and good to meet you again here in this forum, virtual forums. On the behalf of ICE Institute, the head of ICE Institute, we here provide a certificate for you. Thank you so much for your contributions. So I believe all of the participants can take the lesson learned from your experience and anything that you share today. Usually in on-site meeting, we have like handshake and applause, but not just imagine that we have handshake and applause for the certificate for you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oke, satu lagi. Oke. Kepada Bu Nur Afifah Derajati, yang tim peneliti ICE juga. Ini kan mungkin penelitian multi years, Bu ya. Jadi mungkin berlanjut yang nanti tahun kedua ya, Bu Afifah.
Semoga, Pak.
Iya, kepada Bu Afifah dan juga untuk pengetahuan para peserta yang lain gitu, bahwa ini adalah webinar terakhir di tahun ini. Tetapi bukan berarti terakhir untuk seterusnya, karena tahun depan kita akan punya web series yang relatif frekuensinya sama. Ini sudah ke-18 ya, tetapi dalam 2 tahun. Jadi 1 tahun paling enggak 9-10 webinar series. Tolong dipantau aja gitu, atau nanti mungkin kalau misalnya ada notification dari kami untuk tetap ikut partisipasi dalam webinar semacam ini. Dalam kesempatan kali ini, Bu Afifah, saya atas nama Bu Pauline, Ketua AIS, ingin menyampaikan sertifikat ini. Terima kasih sekali atas kontribusi dan udah sharing hasil penelitiannya kepada kami. Saya kira mungkin kita juga perlu salaman dan aplaus ya.
Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih.
Thank you, Mr. Toha, Professor Liz, and Dr. Arifa. Once again, let's give applause for all the speakers, organizer, and for all of us. Thank you very much. I'm Siti Hadianti as the moderator. Apologies if there's any mistakes. It's my pleasure to lead the forum. See you again. Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Liz, Bu Arifa,
Thank you, Bu
and all
Siti.
the
Thank you,
audience.
Prof. Liz.
Thank you.
Thank you, Profis. Thank you, Gunor. Thank you,
For
Bu
all the
Siti.
participants, don't forget to fill out the feedback form to get the e-certificate.